Hello and welcome to Down the Slope. I'm Ewan. We've got a full house after a rather disappointing weekend on Saturday. Harry, I'll come to you first, mate. How are you feeling? Obviously, the general mood is dictated by the Hibs result, but out with that.
Nah, bit shite, mate. Aye, just as you get in the rules, Hibs pish, Harry pish. That's kind of how I'm living life at the moment.
You had a haircut.
See, the thing is, I can't get it to sit right at all, so it's going to look very different at several parts of the episode tonight. But I'm actually trying to have a haircut for a change. It's an absolute disaster today, though. I'm not going to lie.
No worries, mate. Speaking of hair, Liam, you're just sitting significantly better. How you doing, mate?
Well, actually, I've actually. You don't want to care about my hair care routine. I was going to start telling the listeners what I've been doing my hair the last couple of days. Most of my hair was in my hands on Saturday night. To be honest, after that, I'm much the same as Harry and pretty dull spirits at the moment.
Yeah, Greg, wrap us up because I can confirm I'm the exact same as the other two. How are you feeling?
Yeah, miserable after Saturday. Yeah.
Right then. Saturday came and went. Pretty good day. Roseburn opened an hour before we thought it did, so started a little bit earlier than we all anticipated. Team news comes out as ever. We'll start there. Any real surprises for any is in the team that we've seen play? Obviously, Dre Wright started. Chris Muller started. And if any other shocks in there for you, obviously we've seen Harry Clark sort of move back to his what we feel more natural position. Did we actually? Have I made that up? No, I have made that up.
It seems like the energy is low, so I'll try and speak very positively and try and lift us up a bit. I think when the team sheet came out, I wasn't too displeased by it. I said before the game I wanted Dre Wright back in the team, so I was happy to see him start. In hindsight, which we'll come on to, there's some changes that I would definitely make ahead of next week's game. I think before the game on Saturday, I would have said I would have happily seen that team start both weeks, but that is certainly no longer the case.
Harry, sorry, you're Harry. Greg, Liam. Same.
Greg, I was about 3 Guinnesses deep, and I was on the slime, so I was really bothered. I was really surprised that Macy was playing, but other than that, to be honest, I was just want to get going.
Yeah,
I was a wee bit surprised that Dre Wright started the game, to be honest. There's no slight on him because for maybe 20 minutes he was our best player, but a wee bit surprised he started, and I was a wee bit also, if I'm being honest, I thought Lewis Stevenson, Edward Darby at Tynecastle was quite surprised not to see his name on the team sheet in some capacity in one of the 4 positions that he can play for us.
Yeah, I think for me that was the Dre Wright one was a surprise, but given the sort of team that I'd spoke about last week when we were given what we would go for, it sort of fitted in with what I'd thought. Stevenson was one I would have liked to have seen in there, to be honest, though, as well. Maybe to allow Harry Clark to play at that right centre half position, wouldn't have minded that at all, and got Josh Doig nudged up one further as well to left wing back. But Harry, we started the game really well. Let's be honest. I mean, it was a fairly open start. Hearts had a couple of sort of squiffed shots over the bar and stuff, but a good move resulted in Dre Wright, Chris Muller scoring a goal. I'm still not convinced Chris Muller did get a touch.
I'm not going to lie, right? We'll not talk about Chris Muller yet, but he's not getting the goal. Dre Wright, I thought he looked very good from the off. I think that on the ball, he actually looked like he had a bit of confidence about himself, which he seems to be lacking. Well, not in recent things, but that seems to be, for me, the key thing that's kind of brought his game up a bit. But yeah, no, the reason we played so well in that first 30 minutes is he was the one that was actually making runs behind the defence. There were so many stagnant players that were refusing to do anything. Melkerson's really frustrating me. Muller doesn't make runs in behind. Dre Wright was the only player that was kind of pulling Hearts apart. Like it's not difficult to make runs in behind and they have to follow you. It's literally the only thing we've done that punished them the entire game. And as soon as Dre Wright went off, it kind of fell away. But yeah, no, goal, absolutely fantastic. I was so happy for Dre as well because obviously, even after the game, even though he was by far and away our best player, nobody was even in his ballpark. People were still slating him and that on Twitter. I don't understand the hatred for Dre Wright when we've got about 12 players in that squad that are substantially worse than him. Mm-hmm. Hibs fans just need to grow up and stop this agenda that they've formed because it's just embarrassing at this point.
Yeah, Liam, what did you make of the start to the game prior to the goal? I thought we started with a decent bit of purpose to what we were doing, and thought we were passing it about Hearts fairly easily.
We were snapping into tackles, and like there was the first sort of, it's hard to really define that period of time. Maybe first 20, 25 minutes was probably everything that you would want from a Hibs team at Tynecastle and a derby. The intensity was there. We were pressing them as well, which we haven't really seen, if I'm being honest, since Maloney's first few games. That kind of intensity in our press. We looked like a team that was there to like do business genuinely. Like the first 20-25 minutes, I don't want to go over the score on it because we didn't really create a huge amount, but actually just in terms of the general run of play, actually the first 20-25 minutes I was really pleased with us. I thought we were really decent.
Yeah, Greg, what did you make of the start? I think obviously you'd spoke about we needed to get onto the front foot, we needed to get in Hearts' faces last weekend, and the team certainly set off in that manner and scored a really good goal.
Yeah, we started off doing the basics right. We're aggressive, we're in their face, we were moving the ball about nicely, we were playing in triangles, getting the ball down the wing. We were just doing everything that I was looking for us to do. And like I'm saying, it's probably the first 20 minutes were really good. But the drop off was absolutely colossal after that. And as soon as Josh Campbell came on, it sort of turned a wee bit more. That wouldn't have been the sub I would have made. I probably would have brought Henderson on because I noticed that Dre Wright was getting himself in the more advanced positions. I don't think Josh Campbell's that type of player. So that was a poor sub for Maloney. But yeah, I would have said the first 20 minutes were really good.
Aye. What is it too easy to pinpoint the change in the game to Dre Wright coming on? But for me, I think Greg does touch on a really good point that when you bring on Josh Campbell to effectively play as part of your front three, you are setting your stall up a little bit there, aren't you? In terms of saying, right, we've got a lead here, we are just really going to try and maintain it as opposed to adding on it. Personally, like that was my viewpoint on it at the time. Harry, I don't. What did you think of that, or Liam, or anyone?
I just think if you're playing, like, the thing is, like, we weren't in, like, I felt we were in control of the game in the way we wanted to be. Like, we weren't dominating Hearts by any means, but I don't think we looked uncomfortable in the game at all. I think that when we were moving forward quickly. But for me, you just make a like for like sub if things aren't going wrong. Like, bring on Jasper. You've got a winger there that can step in. And I'm not trying to be funny, but the only effective players we've got on the pitch are our wide players. Put Cadden or push Doig up into that position and just let them have a shot at it. I just didn't understand what, like I said from the start, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Campbell play as part of the midfield three, but playing him up with the strikers, it was just stupid.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, in hindsight, you get to watch the game and review it in hindsight, but it's one of those kind of game defining changes. If you make a positive attacking change at 1-0 and it allows you to kind of further build upon what you've already done, then and it pays off. It's a great substitution. It is quite a negative substitution, in all honesty, because we've spoken on here many times before that Josh Campbell maybe gives you more without the ball than he does with the ball. And if you're going to play as part of a front three, you would probably argue that you need to bring someone who is going to provide some form of creativity, because I'm not convinced you would get
At least
that
be able to carry the ball.
Jasper. At least be able to carry the ball. And Dre Wright's perhaps, maybe some of Dre Wright's best traits are without the ball rather than with the ball. Probably not exemplified by the first 5 minutes where he did something brilliant with the ball, he took a great touch, etc. But I do think it's one of those substitutions that a rookie manager maybe makes that he thinks is at the times a wise move, but actually when you look at it in retrospect, it's a very, very poor substitution.
Yeah. Greg, who would you have had? Would you have looked to bring on? You say Henderson, was that the obvious one for you, or
Yeah.
no? Jasper was obviously on the bench as well.
I don't know. I didn't know how fit Jasper was. I don't know. I think maybe he would have been a second half sub for me, but we've seen you and Henderson pick the ball up in midfield and drive forward with it. That was the type of player we needed at the weekend. We didn't need someone who could not pick out a pass, who can't play as part of a front three. I just thought it was very negative, and I thought it almost set the tone and gave them a little bit more confidence to come on to us. So I look, you can be as a rookie manager, but he's in that job for a reason. He's trusted to make the right decisions, and he's made the wrong decision there.
Liam, I seen you started shaking your head there. Do you disagree with Greg?
No, well, I think we've said a few times second half of the season, and really probably throughout the season, that the squad's been one area that's lacking, and we've not had players to bring on. But I don't think you can say that on this occasion. I think there were options there. He chose the wrong one. Bruno Hauger's a winger. He was on the bench as well. I'd have brought him on before Campbell in the limited bits I've seen of him. I would have chosen him. Do you know what? I probably would have brought James Scott on before Campbell as well. And I know James Scott came on and I did absolutely diddly squat in terms of performance, but I would have thought it would be a more positive substitution than bringing on a guy who, you know,
just as players in a position that they've actually featured as well.
Josh Campbell is, I don't think I've ever known a defensive centre attacking midfielder before to be picked based on their defensive abilities. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about bringing a guy on in the final third of the team because he's good without the ball. I mean, we're talking, I mean, to coin one of Greg's phrases, we're talking fucking basic stuff here, right? Basic principles. Just Harry, when they have possession, that's essentially his good attribute. I'm sorry, but I play fives on a Tuesday, Thursday night, and I'm really good without the ball as well. I chase it down all the time. No, genuinely, like I do. I'll chase and I'll run until I can't breathe anymore. Like genuinely, is that what we're talking about in terms of level ability to get into the team?
Yeah, because you're like Harry. It's not a position we've seen Josh Campbell play at all. Out on that sort of right side, you could make an argument for, like Liam said, Ewan Henderson, James Scott, Jasper, Hauger, or Scott Allen to come on. You know, in front of Josh Campbell.
Just to say, I don't disagree strongly with Liam on many things, but I'd rather see David Mitchell come on the pitch than James Scott. I think he's an absolute embarrassment. I think that's performance at the weekend summed him up. I'm much happier that Campbell came on earlier than James Scott. He is an absolute donkey and an embarrassment to the football club. The fact that we kept him beyond January is just an absolute laughing stock from everybody involved. So the James Scott that rant was coming at some point tonight.
To be fair,
like the thing is, I like calling out Hibs players. I don't think it's productive at all. That boy does not give a flying hoo-ha about Hibs, and it's so obvious. The quicker he is out this club, the better. And someone said to me on Twitter that he's going to, if he comes on the pitch on Saturday, we could be 7-0 up. I'm leaving the stadium. I'm not having it. The boy's an embarrassment.
To be fair, Harry, are you talking about David Mitchell for Peep Show, or are you talking about David Mitchell, the goalie?
Mate, I'm talking about anybody on this planet called David Mitchell.
I'd rather bring on Joni Mitchell than David Mitchell, to be honest.
Is it too easy to just pinpoint this substitution, though? Because it was the 38th minute that Dre Wright went off. Now, I felt like we've spoke here about 20, 25 minutes, no 40 minutes of control. You know what I mean? Is it too easy? Was there almost an acceptance of, right, we want to get a goal ahead in the first half hour, then just see where it takes us, getting to half time?
That's shite. That is honestly like the pits, mate. We showed nothing after the first 20 minutes to suggest we wanted to win that game.
Was the Melkerson chance after that, maybe? Was that, met the ball, we worked the ball down well across the right-hand side? I feel like it was definitely after Sims' chance, but I might be wrong.
Chance is generous, to be honest, mate.
I don't know, it gets across the front.
See for me, the boy was isolated all game, and you bring on Josh Campbell, a holding midfield player, to support him. What chance has the boy got? Yeah. He's 19-year-old and been asked to play up against Huddy centre-halves. And we're trying to lump the ball up to him and make it stick. Like, I'm not being funny, but every man in their blind dog can see that's not the way forward. Yeah. You can't do that. But at the moment, the squad is pathetic. There's no real quality in there, to be honest, other than a few glimmers for folk. But the way we play is really starting to hit my head, because I honestly don't understand what the instructions are. I don't see any direction. I don't see any tactical awareness. All I see is poor performances and folk not even doing the bare minimum.
Yeah. Right, that was an incredibly negative viewpoint from all of us from the only positive part of the game. Right on half-time, Hearts equalise. Greg, I'm coming to you last on this one because
thank you.
I think you should be the main event on this one.
I've got my script rehearsed, so I'll see what everyone else says.
What I'm going to say is, look, there's obvious things there, right? And the one thing I'm going to highlight is if I'm going to avoid everything that's happened before it. Jake Doyle-Hayes cannot go and make that tackle and not win it.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's on holiday. Like he's like you've got to. You can. But people will say Hanlon needs to be strong. Drake Doyle Hayes has got to be stronger as well. It's not great for either of them. But I'm avoiding the obvious one. Liam, I could see you really shaking your head there.
I'm in vehement disagreement with that. To be honest, I'm in vehement disagreement because we talked a lot in this podcast about individual responsibility, and there are certain individuals who need to take responsibility when they just, quite frankly, don't front up. And I'm certainly not one of Paul Hanlon's biggest critics, probably not one of his biggest fans either. But everything in that sequence of play that the Boo Boys who dislike Paul Hanlon in our support, not looking at anyone in particular, say about him is typified by that sequence of play. He's not strong enough. He doesn't commit. He's just kind of there, but he's letting it be done to him.
Yeah.
There's nothing about him in that passage of play that is aggressive, assertive, or in any way tries to stamp his impact on the game. He just allows Sims to just hold him off, and it's talk about frustrating, because you could see it happening in slow motion, couldn't you? You were watching him just get pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah, because it starts at the edge of the box.
He moves him about 15 yards. He moves him about 15 yards. And Jake Doyle Hayes doesn't cover himself in glory, didn't cover himself in glory for the entirety of the game, but for me, the damage is already done when you allow the centre-half to bully you for 20 yards.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it enough this season that our general viewpoint on most goals has been to stop it at source, and the source of this goal was before Jake Doyle Hayes. I'm trying to stay away from the main event here. Harry, what was your take on that goal?
My main qualm is, again, like the thing is with Hanlon, I think across the years, I think that one of his strengths has been games at Tynecastle, because he's normally up against a big stocky striker that just wants to rough him up, and he normally does quite well in those situations. Like, we can slag off Hanlon all we want, and like there's been some times where he's been turned on the wing and he's like turned slow in a dump truck, but he doesn't normally get ragdolled. That's the first time I've seen him get proper thrown about the place. Like, I didn't think that's a regular occurrence for Hanlon compared to some of the things that let him down. But yeah,
not for a long time anyway. Not for. I wouldn't. I think you can. I totally agree with you. I think Hanlon has his issues, but I think generally, especially over the last couple of seasons, when it's come to aerial battles and stuff like that, he competes well. I think, as we seen last season, the stats certainly bore that out. But yeah, the visuals for that goal are shocking.
You can what I've and like you're right with Doyle Hayes, but the thing is with that, like if one player goes out of position, then there's always a spare man that can try and cover the next. But I'll let Greg take it away when you want to tee him up, mate, because I think Greg can speak for all of us.
The floor is yours.
I can't understand how a 32-year-old is that fucking weak. He's a centre-half. He's literally been pushed about the place. And do you know what? He's been pushed about. He's ended up on his arse, and then he's got the chance to clear it and doesn't clear it. The boy's a joke. Genuinely, the boy's a joke. I can't understand how he cannot, as a centre-half that's played over 400 games for a club like Hibernian, out-muscle a young laddie like that. That's embarrassing. And do you know what? He should be totally ashamed of himself. The way he acted. He doesn't need to foul him. He just needs to get his foot in there and be strong and be big. He's literally being pushed about like he's nothing. So yeah, I actually can't believe it. And you could see it coming. You could have, as soon as he engaged with Sims, you could see it coming. He's nowhere near strong enough. He's so weak. I don't understand how he's a centre half at this level. Because do you know what? He makes mistakes a lot. Mm-hmm. And whether people like it or not, he's not at Hibs level. He might have done something good 7 years ago, but that does not entitle him to a career at Hibernian Football Club.
Is there a question mark?
I don't think he's been good enough for 2, 3, 4 seasons now. Not consistently anyway. Are you going to ask me this? Are you going to ask me those question marks over Chris Cadden just kicking the ball against the boy? Yeah, that's piss poor as well.
Yeah, aye. No, I actually wasn't going to be Cadden.
There is literally no desire in Chris Cadden there to win that ball. He's not want to get involved, so he kicks it against him. That's just weak.
That's right in the build-up.
Beyond weak.
Yeah. No, I was actually I was going to say about Rocky's just general lack of
Footballing ability.
He's
Anything.
hopeless.
And the
He
anything.
can't header. He can't kick the ball. I think there was one ball that came down the line. They went to kick it and sliced it 5 yards behind him.
I was just,
in an Edinburgh derby.
It's just I've just looked at the goal back again. Then he's in a difficult position in terms of where the ball comes from and it gets played in behind him. But he just sort of saunters and stays totally out of the action. You know, as a centre back, he doesn't do anything to get back into position, or he just sort of stands at the right hand side of the box. And like, for me,
As a centre
back
should...
in that scenario, sure, and nobody wants to see your defence being frantic, but the ball's broke to someone. Now I know I've said Doyle Hayes kind of had him, but Lockie's just standing there watching it as a centre back. Surely he wants to get back into a position where he can influence that passage of play.
You either anticipate where the ball's going to go, or you get yourself in that fucking line and you try and block it. And nobody's done anything. Hanlon's thrown a leg at it, pathetic. Johnny standing 5 yards behind Halliday, not a lick of movement. Honestly, that is probably one of the worst goals we've conceded this season, if not the worst. And we've conceded some really shit goals this season. The defence as a whole is so weak. It's pathetic. There's no aggression there. Nobody wants to actually go make a tackle. Nobody wants to put themselves in the way of things. They're just happy to do the bare minimum, and the bare minimum isn't good enough for us, and we're now bottom six because the bare minimum stuff this season.
Yeah. Any question marks over the goalkeeper or anything like that, or good finish?
How tall's the goalie? Positionally again.
It's a good finish.
Well, there we go. I just think that the space he's allowed in the box. And am I right in saying he took a touch as well?
No. Let me just have got it right.
No,
so he's 12 yards.
So he said it first time.
Yeah, so Sims is sort of, like you say, bullied Hanlon. Hanlon's went on his arse, breaking the ball between Doyle Hayes.
Cadden's half-arsed it. And Hanlon's half-arsed the clearance again, despite he's been given a second attempt to defend properly.
It goes through.
He's not done it.
It goes through Hanlon, Newell, and Doig on the way past Macy into the bottom corner off the post. Liam, Harry, if you've not got anything to add to the goal, how were you actually feeling at halftime? You know,
I
after
said
that
to Craig,
first...
we've lost the game. I said to Craig as soon as that goal went in, I was like, mate, we've lost. I was like, we've not got in. Because see, the thing is, like, we've called it Macy a few times for not really being up to much, but after it, he was screaming at Hanlon, like he was going daft, and the rest of the team just looked dejected. And then, like, I hate Hearts, obviously. That's the loudest I've heard Tynecastle in a while. As soon as they scored, they knew they'd won the game. Like, when teams score against Hibs, they know that they've got at least a point. This team doesn't have it in us to concede goals. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. Like, I was half cut and steaming, and I said to my mate, and I knew for a fact that we'd lost the game. I should have just left.
Half cut and steaming.
What?
Half cut and steaming.
I meant by half cut. I meant steaming, obviously.
Liam, halftime thoughts?
I wasn't too positive at halftime, to be honest. It did feel like the tide had swung majorly, and sometimes in games you can really feel that momentum turn on you. And I know that the whistle came very shortly after that, but it did feel like the momentum had swung at that point. It felt like a lot of the energy had been sapped out the away support as well, who'd been in good voice up until that point too. But we probably went in at halftime, probably feeling like we knew what was coming second half a wee bit. And I do think there's an element of that transfers on the players, but also, I mean, in fairness, the players hadn't really given us anything to cheer about for a good 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well, it's like it would be fair to say there'd probably been a goal coming for Hearts in the first half. You know, I think on the balance of play, did Hibs deserve to be ahead of the break? Probably not. Now, I know I've mentioned it earlier, but I skipped through the game there to get to the goal. Melkerson should probably score. He's in front of the defender. Like, it's actually a really good chance. But I think on the balance of play, going in at halftime is probably about right level. But you just felt we were just about to get in. You know, like it was that close to the break. Harry, what do you have to add to that just before?
I just wanted to throw out the fact that is our first away league goal in 2022. That's mental, and that's maybe like our 7th, 8th game 2022 away from home in the league. Like it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And like I was chatting to my mate John, who's been on the pod before. He's a Jambo, and he was like, he could feel the Hearts fans ready to boo going into halftime. And that one goal, he said that they knew they'd won. Like he said, they had a shite half and they got celebrated in the tunnel as if they were legends. He was like, if they hadn't scored and we were 1-0 up at halftime, the fans would have absolutely hounded them down the tunnel. That just shows how weak this Hibs team are and how shocking the spirit is. I just couldn't believe it. As soon as that goal went in, we'd lost 100%.
Believe it or not, I hate using the word weak, but Hibs as a whole, from top to bottom right now, we are weak. Do you know what? You could see it coming a mile off, and they got such a lift for that. And do you know what? Although we lost a goal just before half time, you're expecting the players to come out with a wee bit of fire in them, a wee bit of aggression. Fucking sat back and rolled over. Like,
aye, right. Second half, I'll be honest, I was still in the concourse when Hearts scored. I didn't make the decision that I needed a piss and something to eat until about 5 minutes left at half time. So it's a second phase of a set piece again. It's a pretty decent clearing header for Harry Clark. You know, like it clears the box. You know, like and he gets out to Halliday, but not a soul with him. Peter Harron puts in a good ball into a really sort of difficult area to defend, and Stephen Kingsley gets off the back of Jake Doyle-Hayes. Just general lack of concentration from a second phase of a set play again, similar to Dundee United the week before, Liam, or?
Aye, similar. Don't really. Aye. I don't really know what else to fucking say about it. It's another fucking horrible goal to concede. Like, we just clear your fucking lines, man. Like, just aye. I would love to give you some amazing tactical analysis to break down it, but just I keep coming back to the same things: individual responsibility, clear the ball, get us back up the pitch, and get us in with a chance of being able to actually fucking survive for 2 minutes without them conceding. It's the worst possible 2 times to score, like right before half time, and then right at the beginning of the second half. Cannot.
It's what, 2 goals in 2 minutes in football. I know you've got half time in the middle of it, but it really is inexcusable. If you didn't have half time sandwiched in between that, it's so bad. Like they've got a corner pretty much straight from kickoff. You know, we've let them waltz in that end of the park, and then you've not defended it. Like, Greg, Harry Clark wins the header from the corner, then he's the one to close down. Now, we've left Harry Clark free to clear the header. That's like, he's not picking anyone up. He's done his job. But surely now, I'm not saying this is on Clark, but surely he shouldn't be the one that's then closing down his own header. He should still be in the box to deal with the ball back in. There's got to be other players going out and pushing up, or we all push up.
Someone should be taking responsibility, but nobody does. Everyone just leaves it to each other. Harry Clark wins a header. Ultimately, he's a centre half, so he should not be closing that down because the ball's going to come back in. Again, it's amateur stuff. It's just laziness. Nobody wants to go out. Nobody wants to press. Nobody wants to chase. Nobody wants to be aggressive. I could honestly go on night about the way that we concede goals, and especially those 3 goals at the weekend. But
it's the second week in a row that from a second phase of a free kick, our centre midfielders marking a centre half. That can't be right.
And you know what? I don't care who it is, but just someone needs to talk to them and say, pass them on, you take them, you take them. You hear it every week in amateur football, but as professionals, they can't do that. For me, it's basic stuff. You match up with height, you match up with position. The midfield or the forwards, if they're in the box, they chase. They press, the centre half staying there to wait on the ball coming back in to win a header. There's zero organisation at the back for us. I don't even know how you fix that, because that's just on the person and the individual taking responsibility. But
it's
honestly, it's just murder.
It's a lack of leadership, it's a lack of coordination, and it's a lack of Christian Deutsch being on the pitch to clear it. But it is dreadful. Like, I don't blame Jake Doyle-Hayes at all. I think that, as you say, Haring's put in its hands up. It's a brilliant ball, but when you've got that much time and space, it's pretty difficult not to put in a perfect ball. I mean, there's literally no pressure on him at all. He could drop, do 20 sit-ups, then a couple push-ups, then do some jumping jacks and then cross it in the box, and I still doubt a Hibs player would have been there. It was Utterly
players.
pathetic.
There's two players wide open at the back post. You've got, I've got it paused on my screen now. So as Haring takes his first touch from Halliday, in the box we've got Josh Doig, Joe Newell, Rocky, Cadden, Hanlon, and Josh Doig. Right, Rocky, Hanlon, and Cadden are all marking Craig Halkett. Every single one of them. Halkett is
What chance have you got?
Halkett's standing in the middle of the three of them. All three of them have got their hand on them. Boyce is making a run in behind Doig free, and Sims and Kingsley are at the back post unmarked. Jake Doyle Hayes is like flagging to get a hand over. Not a soul reacts. The ball comes in. As the ball's in, Rocky and Hanlon are still both preoccupied with Halkett, and the ball goes right over the two of them. And Kingsley, it's a decent finish. You know, he hits the target.
See, to be honest, right?
It's off of me. He's just there. It's no difficult.
To be honest, I'm not going to start crucifying my arm actually, but Rocky is 22-year-old
Mhm.
and experienced at this level, and his captain, 32-year-old, been playing in Scotland for a long time, wants to just mark the same man as him. It's just lazy.
Well, Hanlon is on him. For me,
we'll talk to him then, because
Yeah.
the boy's an absolute mute. You never hear him talk. He only talks when we can see that goal, and that's
in
to
fact,
blame
do you
everyone
know
else.
what? Do you know what? I've just
Because,
rewound it back a little
see,
bit
for
there,
me,
actually.
Kingsley plays at centre half for Hearts, and you've got two centre half marking one centre half. Just move one over, and that goal that so avoidable. But we don't do the basics right, so you can't expect
We're
to
so
win games of
static.
football.
We're so the ball comes in. We're totally static. Even if Kingsley puts it back across the face, Boyce is there for a tap
They'll
in.
score,
Maybe he's went in
aye.
with him. We're just totally static at that point. Like there's nothing. You know, it's arguably worse than the first goal. Really, like you could probably say Sims does well for the first goal to hold off Hanlon. Hanlon should do better, but Sims does well. That goal, we've given it to Hearts on a plate. No pressure on the cross in. Nobody marking him at the back post. It's pathetic, really, innit? Aye, and then fuck all happens until Hearts score again in 10 minutes to make it 3 goals in 12 minutes of football.
That's potentially worse again, mate. That's a terrible goal to concede.
Barry Mackay picks the ball up deep in right, just no far into the Hearts half, glides forward about 15 yards before anyone gets near him. A wee back heel to Andy Halliday. Paul Hanlon does a sort of shimmy as if to say, doesn't he care whether to block him, like to go out and block the shot or try and sort of watch for a pass in behind, and Halliday pops it in the bottom corner. Again, probably not really giving Hearts the credit for the goal that they've scored there, but what the fuck is happening? Is that, for me, that third goal sums up everything we've seen in the second half. Hibs have the ball, gee it away, Hearts are on the attack, and Hibs are just chasing shadows.
We let Andy Halliday take away 5 touches before he hits it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being funny, but like guys, it's a comment probably come back and bite me in the arse at some point. But guys that are as limited as a footballer as Andy Halliday is, if you give them five touches of the ball before they strike it for that distance, of course they're going to do something that at the very least works the goalkeeper. In this instance, he scores. I've got to be honest, and it's the old thing of if your uncle was your auntie, but good goalkeeper makes a save there as well for me. I think that's infinitely savable. I know it's one that bobbles along the ground, but there's just so many things that are wrong about it. Goalkeeper probably shouldn't have to make a save because we should stop it at source and someone should stop that shot. Josh Campbell should probably try and affect the play more, and Barry Mackay's got it as well.
Yeah.
So there's something there for me in that. Paul Hanlon's, you call it a shimmy. I don't know what I call that. A pirouette. Go on then, Andy. Go and stick it in the bottom corner.
There's a pass.
It was just so bad. Like there's so many angles. It's just so preventable. Aye.
Aye, Dave. That is. Do you know what? Look, that's spot on. That. Right, Harry, what the fuck happened in the second half? I don't know if Greg or you want to even speak about that third goal. If you want to, then come when you get the chance. But what the fuck was that second half?
Well, Ken, when you've got a mate who's never played FIFA before and you want him to have a good time, you put it on beginner and you kind of hand him the remote. That's exactly what it was like for Andy Halliday as soon as he got the ball, because literally nobody within 10 yards of me, just as Liam said, he wasn't even running on the ball. He was like light jogging on the ball. And then eventually I was like, why not have a shot? And then Macy was like, oh, go on, let it in. Go on.
Our
And
entire
then
midfield is on the left, or is on the touchline.
it's pathetic.
So Chris Cadden has the ball, somehow tries to play it to Josh Campbell, who's behind two Hearts players. I'll show you the screen, so I don't know if you can see that, but that's the position that Barry Mackay gets the ball in. So if he gets it just inside the Hearts half, Rocky, Doyle Hayes, Campbell, Cadden, and Joe Newell are all in 5 yards each other. It looks like kids playing football on the playground, just chasing after the ball.
I'm not trying to be funny.
That's harsh on kids in the playground playing football.
I'm not trying to be funny. Hearts have got one creative outlet, and it's that Mackay. I didn't like him as a person, as a football player. I'll admit he does some nice things on the park. Like, you need to have a plan for him, and we had nothing. Second half, he absolutely ran the show, and we got embarrassed by him. It was absolutely horrendous. And that's the thing. I don't know what the difference was in the first half to second half, but we just didn't have an answer for him at all. Like, if we go to Hampden next week and we didn't have an answer for him, he'll just absolutely annihilate us on a pitch that size.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's what worries me even more. And look, but this episode's obviously the post-mortem, and we'll get a second episode out looking ahead to the semi, but that's what worries me even more about next week. Look at the spaces Hearts created on the Tynecastle pitch. What, like...
That's the thing, though, mate. They didn't create space. They got given space.
Well, all right. Look at the space we gave them on the Tynecastle. Like, we let Hearts operate in huge gaps. Even the Sims chance in the first half, the ball goes through a huge fucking part of the pitch that there's just nobody there. Now, if you're playing
a through ball, we
couldn't
even defend a through ball. So what chance
you're playing three at the back with two wing backs. Like
this is the thing with wing backs. So in this 3-4-3 system is you've got 4 of your 10 outfield players are playing wide. So you've got your 2 wing backs and your 2 wide midfielders, which means you've only got really the 3 centre backs and the 2 centre midfielders in there to give you a bit of dig. It's a similar system to the way Hearts obviously lined up, but their kind of front 2 play a little bit more centrally than ours. And I just, to be honest, they were picking up pockets of space all the time. Boyce was coming in at the 10, picking the ball up on the half turn. Sims was doing the same at times. Barry Mackay was playing, I don't know where he was playing, but he was picking the ball up in all kinds of space. We just didn't populate the centre of the field with enough players to actually be in there, go in there and fucking compete and try and win the ball and try and stop them picking up the ball in pockets of space. And we had 2 centre midfielders who didn't really want to do that side of the game either. I mean, Joe Newell shows the appetite to mix it from time to time, and for me, he comes away with a little bit of credit for at least doing that. But we don't have a guy in there who wants to do the bastard stuff. We need a bastard in there, and we don't have one.
Yeah. What does it say to you when we're 3-1 down, right? There's still half an hour to go. Like, we've just had a horrendous 15 minutes, and then James Scott comes on, and he takes Melker.
I want to come in on this one because that fucking idiot shouldn't be anywhere near Hibs. You couldn't be asked.
And I don't want to just target on him, but I've seen the subs and I'm like, no, that's changing nothing.
Let's get it right. Let's get it right. The boy's done the square root of nothing since he came in. He couldn't get himself fit for months, and all of a sudden he's getting.
Like he's bringing them on at 2-1. These subs are getting ready at 2-1.
Getting a fair chunk of game time. Boy shouldn't be anywhere near the club, and if he is in the club, he shouldn't be anywhere near the playing squad. Because the boy is, I honestly don't know how he's a professional football player, and someone paid £1 million for that, and he's since he's come up, he's done nothing.
Like
nothing.
What does bringing James Scott for Melkerson and Josh Doig taking off for Jasper actually do?
Maloney just wants to make something for the sake of it. It seems like because he can.
Maybe you're putting Clark back into the free to maybe get some help for depth deep there behind Jasper. But
what's the point?
We've not had any joy through Melkerson for say half an hour in game time. To then you're sticking with the same formation, at least by the looks of it, unless he went to a flat 4. I was absolutely I can't remember. But again, what can you do on the bench? James Scott is the only striker on the bench for Christian Deutsch is obviously injured or whatever, although he seemed to be training all week, so I really don't know what's happened there. Like, there's still half an hour. You need 2 goals to get top 6. Like, not surely, no matter how shite you've been, you'd still think you would put a little bit of pressure on, or at least try and do something on the ball. But we've done absolutely nothing.
No, we had possession, but we didn't get the better of any of the one-on-one battles. I think Jasper came on. I didn't hate the Jasper for Doig substitution. I think, and at least in layman's terms, you're bringing on a creative attacking player for a left wing back. Like, I'm probably all right with that substitution in that stage of the game. I find it hard to disagree with anything that Greg said about James Scott, because he's offered nothing really, other than maybe 45, 50 minutes against Dundee in his debut. He looked like he might be decent. He's been woeful since then. So it's really hard to find any. But I think the one thing that probably discouraged me a wee bit more as well, if I can just talk about another negative, is the fact that Jasper came on and he didn't once get the better of Atkinson in a one-on-one situation. Was Atkinson the right one?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Didn't once like go past him. Didn't once manage to get a cross in by him. Didn't once manage to cause him any problems. And if Jasper's going to be on our main creative outlets on Saturday, that worries me. That does worry me because Atkinson immediately thinking. Well, Atkinson's immediately thinking, oh, half an hour against him, and he had an hour in his legs already at that point, and he still managed to see him off no problem. So that would worry me a wee bit, to be honest. But there were times where we had good possession and moments where we got the ball forward and we just couldn't quite make that final pass. And in some respects, I suppose that's kind of quite a fitting summary of our season, really.
Yeah. So bottom 6 it is.
Just some final thoughts on the second half. I think that's by far Maloney's worst half of football as Hibs manager. I think the subs he made didn't impact the game at all. I think that the performance from the players was horrendous. One thing that I noted at the game, and then especially afterwards when you watch it back, the way the players deflate when the third ball hits the back of the net is fucking pathetic.
Yeah.
There's not, like, because that's the thing, for the first 2 goals, Macy's going absolutely daft. I can't remember, one of the midfielders was going daft at the second goal. Not a single not as Clark, sorry, after the second goal was going daft. Not a single player got angry or frustrated. They all just put their heads down and were like, Christ, we've got another half an hour to play.
Yeah.
Like, the thing I was so annoyed about before Ross went is we became losers. We were just a team full of losers, and it's difficult to say that squad that lost that game there was anything but losers. Like, we let ourselves get beat and we accepted it and we didn't try to do anything to change it. It's pathetic.
Can I say one final thing on the game, just as a talking point that I don't think anyone's picked up really, so I could be fucking a million miles wide of the mark. But do you remember when Haring got booked and then literally about 30 seconds after he gets booked, he goes in like thigh height on Joe Newell? Do you remember that? He's like, honestly, about a minute or two late, and the referee just waves play on. It'll be me and my dodgy memory of the game. I mean, I think we need to caveat this entire review of the game with the fact that I did sink about 10 pints of Guinness.
I was going to say we did start off strong by saying we were in the boozer since 10 o'clock. So
we were deep in the pints. Like,
I'm not even sure the game was 3-1. In fact, I actually had that much drink. Are you sure that we didn't? You sure we didn't win that game on Saturday?
We might be
in some sort of alternative reality. Because I actually genuinely think we might have won that game on Saturday.
I genuinely thought we were going to win the game at the half an hour mark. That shows how much. It shows how much we fucking know. Right, it's bottom 6. It's where we're at. Aye, it's
Captain Shitebag said it slipped away though, so he must be right.
Well, aye. What do
genuinely we right? So he says we know it's not good enough. Many times we heard that over the years, like, and losers like him are still at the club. Genuinely, why are we sticking with the same people that know it's not good enough? I'm sick of hearing that. We know it's not good enough. We'll do something about it then. You couldn't even fucking out muscle a 21-year-old laddie just about an hour and a half earlier. So
what do we make of Sean Maloney's comments post game?
He needs a word with himself as well.
Quite critical, wasn't he? Like, very of the second half performance.
He doesn't strike me as the sort of guy that will start going through players. yeah, we're weak. He's weak. His comments can be taken with a pinch of salt, to be honest, because we don't actually know what will be done at training this week. Well, there will actually be a mentality change, because the mentality would have to change massive amounts this weekend in terms of what we've seen there. So whether he knows it's unacceptable or no, I really don't care. I'd rather we'd done our talking on the pitch instead of useless fucking nonsense like that.
We only ever analyse the manager's comments in the wake of a defeat or a draw. So and to be honest, I thought his comments were fine after the game.
Yeah,
I don't think there was anything he said in that I would pick apart.
Oh, no, I was
right. We didn't
compete
second half. I thought we were okay first half. There was nothing in his comments that particularly worried me. Paul Hanlon's interview was a Paul Hanlon interview. I've seen him do that a million times before. I think when you're being a 32-year-old captain of the club, you get asked to do these things. I think it's almost like you're
just fronting up.
You're doing it. It's muscle memory, isn't it? Like you're literally turning up and you just give the same interview that you give all the time. And we can sit and debate whether or not that's right or wrong, or whether or not we should see real thoughts, real emotion, real enthusiasm, whatever. But at the end of the day, that's how it goes in football. Like, these players are conditioned not to say anything that's really substantive in those interviews. I'd love it if he came out and lambasted some of his teammates and said they weren't good enough, and took some individual accountability and said, I wasn't good enough, players weren't good, etc., etc. But it was just a bit meek, wasn't
it? Two things on that. I know that Patrick McPartlin said he's never seen Paul Hanlon so angry. Wow. If that's Paul Hanlon angry...
But that's not that interview. That's not that interview. That's separate.
No, he doesn't look arsed, though. He just looks like, oh, well, we turned up, we got squared 3-1. Usual for the usual.
It's deflation more
than... when they go out. No, a wee bit of passion when they go amiss.
No, I get that. I get that.
You know, but yeah.
But I tell you,
thing is,
to be fair though, I think for me walking out the ground, I was more deflated than I was angry.
I was genuinely furious.
I struggle.
I've never been that angry walking out of Tynecastle ever.
I struggle to get angry when you see something coming that much. You know, like I think we had it. We spoke about it a few times, maybe earlier in the season as well. Like, when you've seen this story before, when you see it coming, how can you let yourself get angry that much to it? Like, really, like I didn't, like, I was walking out the ground with Liam and I just took myself off to back to the train station. I was meeting a Chinese at 6 o'clock and I fell asleep by 8:30. Like, you know, like it just, like we all said, for the moment Hearts scored, you knew it was coming. You knew that was the way. So I was struggling to almost actually do. I was obviously I was angry. I was pissed off, but I couldn't really stir up that much. I mean, I know
this team isn't strong enough to bounce back for that.
Oh, that's it.
Nowhere near strong enough.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, bottom six. Harry, you wanted to. We weren't really going to mention this, but. And I probably should, because anyone that's in any group chats with me on Saturday would have seen me say Sean Maloney out in just about every second message I sent, which is not my opinion.
To be honest, I read it and I was about to lob my phone.
But yeah, Harry, Sean Maloney's coming under increasing pressure, whether we like it, agree with it, or whatever. Where do we land on Sean Maloney? Because in the lead up to the game, he was very critical of the January window, shall we say? And then we've probably seen the pudding of that at the weekend.
If James Scott plays in any form or capacity, I'm not taking the piss. I'm Maloney out. It's genuinely not acceptable. Like, he proved at the weekend that it's not the correct wild card to use. If he genuinely believes at any point that James Scott can come on in an Edinburgh derby and his game as big as next weekend is and impact the game positively, he doesn't deserve to be manager at Hibernian Football Club. It is as simple as that. At the moment, I'm not Maloney out, but if James Scott plays next week, if you know, I would love him to bring him on next week, me to leave the ground, James Scott to score 3 and Hibs to win 3-2 after being 2-0 down. I would love to absolutely get my face slapped by James Scott, but will it happen? The boy's a loser, and if Maloney continues to pick him, he shouldn't be in charge of a football club.
Liam, where are we with Sean Maloney?
That was a main red flag for me. Like, apart from, I'm no Maloney out at all, but that was a massive red flag. We're chasing a game, as you said. Why take off Melkerson for that rat? Well, not rat's a bit harsh. He's just not very good at football. I don't want to question his actual acumen, but yeah, no good enough at all.
Liam, where are you and the general
My
fan
position's
base
been-
is with Maloney?
My thoughts and my position's pretty much unchanged from when he first started. I didn't think he was going to come in overnight and turn us into a wonderful football team. I probably thought we'd be slightly ahead of where we're at now, if I'm being honest. I thought we'd be maybe a little bit further on in the project, the kind of footballing cliche that I know we all love and hate. I do think for me, the players aren't good enough. The players that he's working with are not good enough. The squad's not good enough. The last 2 transfer windows haven't been good enough. And we continue to, I think we all recognised how difficult it was going to be in the January transfer window to turn it around. But he's playing with a bunch of guys out there. Some of them are established first team players, and some of them are projects for the longer term, and some of them are neither because they won't be at the club next season. So it's a very, very, very patchwork squad. There are a few, I guess, probably worry warts, and we've talked about a couple of them in terms of the substitutions are worrying me. Another huge worry with Maloney at the moment is what seems to be a lack of ability to demonstrate any form of versatility and try and change games and try and change and move away from a system that when the system's not working or when the players in the system aren't working to just continue to persist with it. That's a worry for me. There are some encouraging signs. There are definitely some encouraging signs, but recruitment not been good enough. That's no longer the head coach's remit. That was made very clear to us. So I know whose eyes, and I know where my eyes are looking at in terms of heads to roll, and it's not Sean Maloney at the moment.
Yeah, Greg.
You
made a promise.
Yeah. The bottom 6 is unacceptable for a club of this size. For me, you should be getting a better tune out of the players. We should be able to at least see a direction. I don't see that. I don't think he should be sacked. However, when something drastic needs to change, we had a massive rebuild in the summer. I really don't care about empty words or whatever. I just want to see players shipped out that aren't good enough. Unfortunately, we've given one of them a long-term contract, so we're stuck with him for a while. He should be given time to implement, but he knew what he was coming into. He knew exactly what he was coming into. He should be able to get a much better tune out this group of players, whether they're good enough or not. We should not be anywhere near the bottom 6, but we are, because we've not been good enough. Under him, under Jack Ross, the players have been a disgrace at times this season. Not performing, that's on them as well. Ultimately the manager will always get the sack if they've not performed, but the players should be 110% ashamed of themselves this season. So yeah, it's on the players as well, not just the manager, but he should be doing a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. For me, I think obviously, I know I've said that was my main frustration. Was just I just struggle. I'm probably in line with what Liam said. Like the commitment to this 3-4-3, it doesn't make sense. We've played everyone in the league. Some of them twice. It's not worked. Full stop. Against anyone. We've won one game in the league this year against Ross County thanks to 2 damn good goals from individuals that won us that. It wasn't through playing scintillating football. Now, yes, I thought I know we spoke about it, I thought we were pretty decent against Dundee United. We did create chances and stuff, and do you look at the first half an hour and you say that that is the sign of what we're going to see in terms of if we get the right players in, we'll be able to pass it out with purpose and create some chances on the back of it. But it's difficult to see right now in the thought of he needs to change it up for next weekend. But
doing it for half an hour.
No, of course it's not.
5 minutes. It is nowhere near good enough for a club of Hibs stature. And anyone who thinks they can do it for 45 minutes or half an hour should not be at the football club.
Yeah.
Too many passengers, too many players that just aren't good enough, too many players that don't seem really willing to put it in. So for me, they should be gone. If nobody's willing to run through pick walls for Hibernian Football Club, then they shouldn't be here. Ultimately, effort is bare minimum, but it's better than no turning up at all or being weak. So.
Yeah. No, Greg, I think that wraps us up nicely on the post-mortem of Saturday's shit show. Now, we are going to leave you all depressed because this is where we end this episode. You're going to have to tune back in tomorrow to listen to the preview as we all quickly run away, take about 25 Jaeger bombs to try and perk ourselves up and record the preview show, which will be out tomorrow night. So thank you for listening.
Can I just say, this is by far our most depressive performance since you before Arbroath. By far. But at least this was a team effort this time. We've all came down on the club. You mind that? Oh, sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there before.
Nah, the most depressing down the slope episode ever was before I joined when you reviewed the St Johnstone game. That was fucking terrible. I remember I was out walking the dog and I just had tears rolling down my face. I was that fucking depressed listening to you, man. I phoned the GP and got him to up my fucking prescription after listening to that.
Right, well,
even the poor dog had enough.
Aye.
Like I say, we'll be back tomorrow night, preview the Scottish Cup semi-final. Hey, things can only get better, surely. Cheers.
Things can only get better.